Blog Talk Radio.
Well, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Across this great country, coronavirus might have a grip on you. The looting out here in Los Angeles is not going to have a grip on this show out of Cleveland, Ohio, hosted by my good friend Peter Ray. It's the American Sports History. I'm the producer, Mark Mancini. Yours truly, 347-205-9631. As I give him the podium, the mic, the red carpet. First of all, Peter, how are you? Second of all, how can people get a hold of you? Third of all, you got a huge guest tonight.
Oh, hi, Mark. I'm fine. And I have a YouTube channel. It's my name, Peter J. Ray. I make history videos. I made 673 history videos in various areas, including Cleveland baseball. And tonight we have a tremendous guest, Dave Raymond, the first Philadelphia Fanatic, who now has been for 20 years has been operating Raymond Entertainment, and he founded the Mascot Hall of Fame. So this is a wonderful topic. You know, here in Cleveland, the last great owner was Bill Veeck. And let's face it, baseball is entertainment. So and here we've got Slider, the mascot Slider. I was thinking of Mr. Med, and then I guess the first was a San Diego Chicken. So thanks so much for coming on the show, Dave, or Mr. Raymond. I really appreciate it.
Oh, please don't call me Mr. Raymond. That makes me older than I am, but I am old. I've been around long enough to make all the mistakes, and that's one of the reasons why I can be a consultant, because I can tell people not to make the mistakes. It's interesting because there's a really great connection between Cleveland and Slider and the Fanatic. Dennis Lehman, who just is recently retired from the Cleveland Indians, was a long time president of the Indians and was a good friend of mine, and he was the reason why the Phillies decided to have a mascot, because he had gone to San Diego on a West Coast swing with the Phillies and noticed the type of fun that the chicken was having, and he came home to talk to Mr. Giles, my boss, and said, "Hey, Bill, we have to do something like this. This chicken in San Diego is creating a lot of stir." And because of that, the Phillies decided to create a mascot. So a good connection to Cleveland, and Denny being a good friend of mine, it's really nice to be in Cleveland tonight.
Yeah, this is tremendous. I was just doing a little research on you. I saw this thing near the end of this article where you were talking about yourself, and I can't find the quote here. Anyway, but I think it's just wonderful, because like I said, I believe in I'm a comedian myself, and it's interesting. Comedy is a double-edged, or comedy can be, you can get in trouble with. I've gotten in a lot of trouble with, comedy. You can offend people, and that's why self-deprecating humor can be the best when you make fun of yourself. And you've probably had issues with baseball players not appreciating what the mascot's doing, right? And some people don't, what the hell is this guy doing out here? But anyway, I think it's tremendous, because it's baseball, it's entertainment, it's good. People need to laugh, they enjoy it. So I give you all the credit in the world for what you've pursued, and so what would you like to talk about?
Well, I think it's funny that you mentioned that. The beauty of what happened in Philadelphia with the Fanatic was that he was created, and on paper, people were looking on paper not thinking it was a great idea. But, it was Bill Giles' vision to have something that would build more fans than just, dad and his son, or what we have today, a lot of statistic nerds. It was about, making baseball available to the entire family. And the Fanatic was the first venture in there. And actually the Fanatic, he was born in April 25th of 1978. And the fans, surprisingly to many, immediately took to this character. And it was, these are the same fans, are tough, demanding fans. Thinking of a 300-pound green furry Muppet as their mascot was not something that we thought would have worked. Same fans that booed Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. And when the Fanatic came out, there was just something special about the way we rolled him out. And the players, the umpires, all of baseball really started to, appreciate and adopt him as part of the game. And that the beauty of that was because people had never seen anything like this type of entertainment. So we were lucky. All the stars aligned, and the Fanatic has been around for 41 years. Probably has entertained over 100 million fans in those 41 years, and it's those with the appearances, the outside appearances all over the globe, as a matter of fact, and all the games in front of the Philadelphia fans. So it's been a huge success, and it has driven this business of sports mascots that has really been appreciated as an important tool in engaging fans and getting fans to be excited about a game that they may not know a lot about at a young age. And we build fans. That's what mascots do. They create a whole new generation of fans.
Now, I've got a quote from you in an article. You said, "The most important thing in life is to contribute. We do all want to contribute. I still haven't figured that out yet. I haven't made myself comfortable with the fact that I contributed, and that is a daily struggle. I'm starting to give myself a little bit of leeway and credit, but it's not easy." Well, I'd say you have made a major contribution.
Well, I think that quote was driven. We all have this negative critic in our head, and if you listen to that. If you listen to that critic, you'll get beat down really quickly, because that's your brain has has an ability to try to keep you in check, and then it overdoes it. So what has happened over the years is so many fans will, when they find out what it was that I did, and they immediately want to tell you a story, a moment that was created by the Fanatic with them or their children or them as young people, and it's just amazing the love and affection I get from probably the toughest fans in all of baseball. And once you're on their good side, they are forever grateful. And the Fanatic is still operating and has been around for 42 years, still entertaining and creating new fans and entertaining fans in Philadelphia. And it's been a joy to be a part of it. And it's recently that I've started to give myself credit for having a skill set that helped create that personality, and that's what I'm blessed with being credited for. And I do a lot of public speaking. I'm a keynote speaker, an international keynote speaker, and I talk about the value of fun and the power of fun, and all of those lessons were learned by being the Fanatic.
Yeah, I was thinking probably the players. There's a lot of stress being a professional baseball player, because they don't know, their batting average is posted every at bat. Most of the times they don't get a hit, and so there's constant stress. There's always knowledge that they can be replaced, that their career could end with an injury, and then they're trying to win each game. And then so I'm sure that the Philly Fanatic and other mascots have really done a lot of good in helping guys break the tension. Like a lot of there's a lot of teams have the comedians on the team, like Louis T and different guys who really help the team just by being funny. And so that's what you're doing for everybody really at the game. So that's wonderful.
Yeah, well, I think I was mostly inspired because my whole life I was an athlete. I played football for my father at the University of Delaware. And, so I knew the heartbeat of the Philadelphia fan, but I also understood the athlete. And my motivation was about trying to get close to these players who were my heroes and who are, we all grew up as young boys that were playing sports that we would someday be in the world of professional sports and be a professional athlete. So I had the beauty of getting close to them and getting to be able to talk to them and get to know them. And those athletes, they were the most willing participants to have fun with the Fanatic. Now, I don't think it certainly doesn't work in football because there's a whole different mental focus to try to get ready for a football game. But there's 182 games in baseball, and these guys are looking for distractions. And they, my relationships with the visiting players was, legendary. And when they would come in, and Tommy Lasorda would come in as a manager, and they would all interact and play with the Fanatic. And I think that was what the real excitement for me personally was, that I got to, feel like I was part of the team. And those players, all those years, for the 17 years I was with the Phillies, all of those players treated me like I was part of the team, and I had, long-lasting friendships with many of them.
Well, yeah, that's what we all want as fans too. That's why I've been enjoying these podcasts. I've gotten to be able to speak with guys like Randy Lurch, Lenny Randall, Warren Brewster, who says, hi, Warren, if you're listening. And I'll give you a story. I was at a game in Cleveland with my son. He was young. He was a young fella, and Slider was walking around the stands, and we went up, and I think he went up and touched him on the back or something, like touched him from behind, and so that became part of family lore. We touched Slider. It's like something to remember.
It's like catching a foul ball. I mean, you go to a baseball game, and as a kid, you always hope that there's going to be a ball that will fall, near you, and have an appearance by the mascot becomes part of that experience, and which is why they're such an important part of the game. I was disheartened recently and talked in the media here locally, and it's made some of the news wires about being disappointed with Major League Baseball's decision to ban mascots as they rolled out or tried to roll out baseball. And I was not highly critical of them because I understood they were trying to make it safe, but they just seemed to not understand the value of having a character that could connect emotionally to baseball fans, and that they lumped them in with the clubhouse personnel and bat boys. And last time I checked, people didn't buy tickets because of the bat boys or the clubhouse personnel, and no disrespect to them. They're an important part of the organization structure and keeping the clubhouse ready for the players. But the mascot's a completely separate entity that is the only thing that you have beyond the players in the game itself to connect emotionally to fans. And so I wanted baseball to say, listen, we won't have the mascots on the field, but we are going to carve out time for them during our broadcast, because there's going to be no fans in the stands. It's going to be this sterile environment. It's going to be strange for everybody, but the fans will be tuning in because they want to get their fix of Major League Baseball. And what better way to help them enjoy that production, that broadcast, than to show the Fanatic or Slider in the stands interacting as if, people were there having a lot of fun with live streaming and even virtual connections from fans that are watching online. There's so much they could do, and that's what I was appealing to Major League Baseball is, consider using the mascots as part of the way to get the experience of these fans watching the games on TV with not being able to be in the stands, to make it feel a little bit more fun and a better connection with the fans. And I'm hoping Major League Baseball, if they ever work it out with the players, which looks like they're struggling with that, but if baseball does come back and there's no fans, we've got to figure out a way to include, the value-added entertainment that's there, and part of that, a big part of that, are the mascots.
Well, let's face it, Major League Baseball owners are wealthy businessmen who are not known as having highly developed senses of humor. And in Cleveland, I mentioned Bill Vack. I'll mention him again because years ago, he was a very creative guy, had a sense of humor, but he revolutionized baseball, brought so many innovations, but he was condemned by all these, oh, my God, what are you doing? This is terrible. And that's how it is. But I share your hope that happens, because I'm all in favor. When we're kids, if you're a little kid, if you have a good family life, chances are you have a really good sense of humor. You're a funny kid, and then we grow up and kind of lose that, and then we have to make a living and stuff. But we need to get it back as adults. We need to have a sense of humor. So what you're doing is not just for little kids; it's for everybody. And I really take my hat off to you for this. Is really wonderful work you're doing. Tremendous.
Well, I appreciate that, Peter. And I'll tell you, it even goes a little deeper than just having a sense of humor. This power of fun theory that I've developed, and I have a book out called The Power of Fun, are the lessons that I learned by being the Fanatic about how powerful fun can be in our lives. And, part of it is about just making sure you value fun. And that's what I was arguing with, Major League Baseball about, is you've got to value it. It does not, because you invest in fun, it doesn't say that you are not a serious, focused business person. It says that you understand that to connect to your employees, to connect to your customers, you have to leverage fun as part of what you do, just as if you were leveraging all of the business tools available to you to market, sell, and to drive revenue. And the first step is to value fun, and then once you recognize this force of fun is right there at your fingertips, that when you use it, you recognize that it is universal. It crosses all borders, barriers, and in the case of the performance that we do, it's nonverbal communication, so it crosses language barriers. And then the third lesson is to recognize that this is a serious effort in fun. It isn't putting on a red clown nose and running around and acting silly. It's about following a process. So this power of fun goes beyond just humor and entertainment. It goes on to understand that it is one of the most powerful tools that we can use in life, specifically during times of really difficult challenges. And that's obviously what we're experiencing now. And so what I'm preaching and what the Fanatic taught me was fun works everywhere. And most importantly, it is very, very successful when life is at its most difficult times. And you use the same theory to help you get out of these difficult times and overcome them and build resilience. And then you can use it to thrive in life as well. So that's the beauty of mascots in terms of why they work. I was asked for years, why do mascots work? I said, well, they emotionally connect to people just by showing up. And they create these moments that will last forever. That's better than the owner in a three-piece suit. That's better than even at times meeting your favorite baseball player who doesn't know how to connect with you because they don't like to sign autographs, or maybe they're not good at conversation with fans. A mascot shows up and immediately dissolves all of that tension. And those are the things that we really should be investing in now in our lives, and that is the powerful fun that can help you enjoy a baseball game a little bit better, but also can help you survive life-threatening illnesses, and the same fun that can help you, be a better person, a better business person, and to be able to build a better workforce. And that's really what we need today.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I'm a historian, and one of the things I've studied is like the history of the Jewish people, and all this persecution that they've been through over the centuries. And one of the things that's in fact, I read a book about all the famous Jewish comedians, because I think Jewish people over the centuries they used comedy to help them cope with hardships that they were going through. And I lived in the Philippines for 20 years, and Filipinos, they laugh a lot. There's a lot of hardships in the country. It's a third world country, and when things go wrong, they laugh, and it helps them. It helps them, and like you're completely right. Now, especially what's going on with the coronavirus, it's very tough, and people are really having a tough time. So. Yeah, fun, as you mentioned, is so important. Now, let me ask you about your father. He was football coach at the University of Delaware. Would you like to talk about him?
Yes, he was really my hero, and actually responsible for getting me connected to the Phillies. So I grew up with him as an icon. He worked at the University of Delaware for 50 years. He was the head coach for 36 of those 50 years. He won 300 games, all at the University of Delaware. He's in the College Football Hall of Fame. He was good friends with Bear Bryant, worked side by side with him at a couple of all-star games. Ara Parsegian came to my dad for him to develop some offensive philosophy when he was at Notre Dame. Joe Paterno and his staff came to study my dad's offense. And so some people may not know Tubby Raymond, but all you have to do is just go on the College Football Hall of Fame and check him out. So I grew up with him as my father, and all I wanted to do was be him. I wanted to go play football for him at Delaware. That was my sole focus all the way through high school. I was fortunate enough to be able to go to Delaware and play football for him, and then I wanted to be a coach just like him. And he was, looking at me, reflecting what he had done and thinking that that's what happens. And he said, David, look, there's no possible way you'll be able to stay at the same institution as modern football is changing. You're not going to be at the same college for 50 years. You'll be lucky if you get to stay there for 5 to 10 years. And you'll be moving your family around. It's not the easiest job. It's not like maybe you've been able to see it from my perspective. So and I was still going to school at Delaware. I hadn't graduated yet. I had another year and a half to go. He said, let me help you get a job with the Phillies. He knew the owners, the Carpenter family. and he got me an internship in 1976 and 77. And after the 77 season, I'm like, wow, I can't believe I could actually have a job working for my Philadelphia Phillies, my beloved hometown major league team. And there was no sports management, sports marketing at that time in college. And to recognize I could actually have a career, I was done with football coaching as an idea. I wanted to stay with the Phillies, but that was supposed to be a 2-year internship. And in 1978, while I was at my fraternity house, I was thinking, shoot, I'd really want the Phillies to know how much I'd like to work for them after I graduated. And I thought they were going to say, okay, graduate, you take your final semester and then come back and we'll see what we have. Instead, they called me early in the spring of 78 and said, look, you can have your same job back, but we need you to stay for all the games. And I said, sure, I'm in. And he said, we're going to pay you to stay for the games. My boss was telling me, we're going to pay you. And I said, what do you want me to do? They said, go to New York and get fitted for the costume. And I'm like, what? And they said, go to New York and get fitted for the costume. I said, wait a minute, David, go to New York and get fitted for the costume. So, and what I realized happened was I was low man on the totem pole. I was an intern, and there was this group of the Phillies personnel that didn't think this was a good idea. So all Bill Giles wanted was somebody who would say yes to getting in the costume. That was one of they had the costume designed. It was being built. They needed somebody to say yes to perform. And for whatever reason, Mr. Giles thought, okay, let's have David do it. He's been a lot of fun around the office. Let's put him in it. And
whose idea was it?
It was a combination of Bill's, idea of fat, furry, and funny, and Bonnie Erickson was the designer from a design group in New York that was that Bonnie's one of her early jobs was working for Jim Henson. So, and Bill actually called Jim Henson and got him on the phone, and Jim Henson turned him over to Bonnie, and a collaboration between, Bill Giles and Bonnie Erickson created the design that was approved. And when they started to build it, Bonnie was saying, we need somebody here to measure them so that we can fit it for somebody. And that's when I came in, and it was, probably mid-March of 78. And the first day that I put that costume on was the first time I tried it on was the morning of the day I was going to go run out in front of these baseball fans that booed Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. I'm like, how is this going to work? And Bill Giles, when I went to Bill and said, what do you want me to do? No one's told me, you haven't told me what you want me to do. He said, listen, I want you to go have fun. If you're not having fun, the Fanatic won't be funny. If the Fanatic's not funny, it's not going to work in front of fans. So I just want you to go do that. And he just let me go. He let me on the fly make up whatever I wanted to do. He would give me some input along the way. And for the first couple of weeks, that's the way we did it. Hey, why don't you go over here and see if the ground crew, you might have some fun with the ground crew in the fifth inning. And why don't you go over here and check out this section? And I would say, hey, I should go do this. Okay, go ahead. Do whatever you want to do. And he did yell, he did scream at me, G-rated fun. It needed to be G-rated fun. He didn't want me to be the Philadelphia version of the San Diego Chicken because the Chicken was doing some pretty, R-rated material that wouldn't work in our ballpark. And that was my only direction. And within a few months, in my head at least, I had developed a personality that I knew when I put the costume on, that's what I would become. And it was just a beautiful, perfect storm of all the right pieces falling into place when no one really knew what we were doing. And then my business of designing and creating characters has come from deconstructing what we did back then. And I worked with the Flyers to create Gritty, and we followed, that was just a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. We followed the same process that I deconstructed about what the Phillies did. And that's what's made us very successful in creating sports marketing and entertainment, is because we understand the process that you have to follow to value fun and to engage it and make this physical embodiment of fun that then goes out and connects to your fans emotionally. There's no better marketing initiative than a character brand.
Were you at the 1980 World Series?
Oh, yes, sir. That was one of my favorite memories was being at the back end of the World Series parade on a flatbed all by myself. So I got to see the millions of Phillies fans that were, filing in behind the procession of this parade like a wake. I saw a human wake come all the way down Broad Street, follow us to JFK Memorial Stadium where they had just about 100,000 fans that had come all the way down Broad Street and filed into the stadium for this big celebration. But that was forever one of my greatest memories, is to see the Phillies fans finally get their due and win a world championship after years and years and years of on-field struggles and snatching victory right out of their hands when it looked like they were going to potentially get into a World Series. So 1980 was brilliant, and only 2 years after the Fanatic was born, so we could claim some responsibility for putting that team in the right mental state to finally push it over the top and win the World Series.
After 97 years, going back to their founding in 1883, where were you when Tug McGraw put his arms up in the air and it was over?
Tug was one of my closest friends. And he, I miss him greatly, just like I do Richie Ashburn and Harry Callis. Those three folks were some of my closest friends. And Tug, ironically, he succumbed to the same disease that my mother died. At 59, my mom died of brain cancer, and Tug had the same glioblastoma tumor and took his life. But so it's interesting, I was sitting right here next to me, Peter, is I believe and have the best story that I have the last ball from the World Series, the one that Tug threw into Bob Boone's glove. He threw his arms up in the air, and the day before in the clubhouse, Mike Schmidt was complaining about, he wanted to know how come the catcher always runs out to hug the pitcher at the end of the World Series. And Tug was there, and I was actually standing off the side of the clubhouse, and I saw this happen where Mike was, just being funny, going, why can't the third baseman run and hug the pitcher? And
okay.
so Tug said, okay, if I'm in the game, I will wait and hug you. And if you watch, he throws it in, Bob Boone catches. Bob Boone throws his hands up in the air. Tug throws his hands up in the air. They look at each other, and then both Boone and Tug look towards Mike, and Mike comes running in and jumps into Tug's arms. So the story of the ball, Bob Boone and I talked a lot after this, and Bob said that in the clubhouse he took it and gave it to Tug, because it was in Bob's glove. And Booney said, as I was handing it to Tug, I was thinking, why am I giving this ball to Tug? Because if you knew Tug, he would never value something like that. He gave me his gold glove right off of his Rawlings Gold Glove trophy because it wasn't the right glove. So Rawlings, he was going to send it back to Rawlings. He pulled the glove, which was a glove that was just spray painted gold, and threw it to me and said, here, Davo, you can have the glove. I have that in my house. That right off of his trophy was his gold glove. So he just didn't value it. He wasn't steeped in any type of tradition. So Booney goes, I'm giving it to him thinking he's going to have this in his garage, 20 years from now in the bottom of a bag that he's been throwing to his kids. So I never thought of that story again. And my father, who passed away a couple of years ago, about 6 years ago, said, hey, can you come over to the house? We've had a flood in the basement, and I want you to take a bunch of my my trophies and a lot of paraphernalia, my college yearbooks, all this stuff. I want you and your brother and sister to have them anyway, and I don't want to, have them in the basement with all this water. So I went and took them, and as I dug through those tubs, I saw one of the 1980 World Series balls, and the 1980 World Series balls were the first balls that Major League Baseball put a logo on to identify them as World Series balls. So I'm looking at this ball. It's all mudded up like a ball that's been in play. And I turn around and I see this inscription on it. And my mom's name was Sue. Her nickname was Susie. And Tug got to know my mom. And my mom loved Tug because he always treated her nice. And it says, hi, Susie. Peace, love, and happy 1981. And it says Tug McGraw. Well, that obviously was a Happy New Year ball. And I can see him just giving my mom the ball that he knew was the last ball in the World Series because no one else would know it. And sure enough, I talked to his family. Nobody has a World Series ball in any of his effects. And so I have it up here on in my credenza, and nobody's going to tell me that wasn't the real last ball in the 1980 World Series. So I'm telling people I've got it. I got a good story, and signed by Tug, and it's definitely a ball that was used in play because of the mud on the ball. And that's what, they mudded up all the balls before they go into play. And so I got the last ball in 1980s, Peter, so nobody can tell me I don't have it.
And who did Tug McGraw hug at the last pitch?
Hey, he hugged Schmitty. He waited for Schmitty.
Oh, Mike Schmidt, third baseman.
Yeah. He ran over and hugged him because they had made that pack. They had made that pack in the locker room the night before.
Well, there's a lot more we could talk about. We're out of time. I was going to bring up the Pete Rose catch off when the ball popped out of Boone's glove, one of my favorite plays in baseball history. But we're out of time. Thank you so much. Dave Raymond has been our guest tonight, the original Philly Fanatic who has his business is Raymond Entertainment and the founder of the Mascot Hall of Fame. And thank you so much, Dave, for coming on the show. Maybe we'll hopefully have you on again. Thanks so much for coming on.
My pleasure, Peter. Enjoy the week.
You too. And okay, thank you, dear listeners, for listening to wrap up the show and quote Joe Tate, the former Cleveland Indians and Cavaliers radio broadcaster. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks again, Dave. God bless you.